Hey everyone, today we're going to be editing a vocal using Melodyne inside of Reaper with the new ARA technology. So what I have here is a song called Maybe. It's from Unicorn Rodeo, and I got this from the Cambridge MT site. It's a free to use multi-track that you can download, and it's a good track to practice mixing with. I've done a rough mix. It sounds half decent, I'd say.
Maybe if I just keep on trying, I can figure out what my life's supposed to be like, what it's all about. Maybe you are pleased for me that I'm finally sure what I wanna get rid of, and what if I want more.
Pretty good, but it could use a bit of tightening just to fit with the synths and the other guitars and things that are more perfectly in tune. So I'm using Reaper 5.972. This ARA function was added in 970. Basically what it does is instantly load in the vocal pitch information into Melodyne. There have been some things in the last 2 updates that make this a lot easier, or kind of improve this workflow a little bit. And I'm sure that there's a lot more coming because Celemony and Kakos are working together to make this really good for us. But I think that this is a good time to do the tutorial anyways. It shouldn't change drastically from here, just get a little bit better. So you can see this little ARA Analysis window is only going to take a second for that to pop up. And here's our vocal already loaded in. If you've used Melodyne before, you know that that process is normally a real-time process. You have to load the plugin in and then click the transfer button and then play the entire song and repeat the process for every vocal layer that's in the project. And so using this ARA technology, it's pretty much instant. Takes a couple seconds and the song is loaded in. Working on a laptop, so this is a little bit cluttered. So what I'm going to do is just hide all the other tracks except for my lead vocal. So we can click around in the ruler of Melodyne and it automatically moves the cursor in the edit window and vice versa. If I zoom in here to this much, the zoom isn't linked. That would be a really nice thing if zoom was linked, and also if the keyboard shortcuts were the same, but for now, the main thing you'll have to do is repeatedly right-click, switch to the zoom tool, and kind of zoom into the same amount. Just makes it a little bit easier. You can also drag in the ruler up and down to zoom in and out horizontally. And vertically, I'm not sure where that would be here. So once you have the audio loaded in, I like to go through and find any areas where it might need to be split further, just so that the pitch detection can work on more smaller parts. So like this here, there's a bend up. Let's zoom in here. So this here has a little bend up. I think it'd be good to split that first. You can do that just by making sure that the cursor is this shape, and then you double click, and it's going to split that. So now it's not going to work too hard on things that that should be 2 separate notes. Or if it's supposed to be 1 note but was sung as 2 different notes, you can adjust that manually. It's easier for the automatic detection and correction to work when there's more splits. So I'm going to do it that way. And this is a breath here, I think. Yeah. So you can double click to play from that position. Oh, another thing I guess be important to show is that, let's say I split this vocal and remove that section. You can see that it's removed from inside of Melodyne as well. And if I heal that split, it's back. So that's a huge benefit working with Melodyne compared to just, you know, without the ARA version of Melodyne. So yeah, we're just going to go through this and find some more spots where we can split this into separate notes. So this is quite a long word here. What is this?
I wanna get rid of.
Yeah, that's a few words, so we're gonna split that up. Yeah, something like that. It's not too critical, but I think if we do it now, it's easier to manage than having to backtrack and fix mistakes. So just a little bit of time spent going through the vocal, just looking at these blobs here and seeing where there's different notes. Like this is quite a few pitch changes here. Yeah, I think it'd be worth splitting this up into a couple different notes. Melodyne has this thing where if you hold a note, you can sustain it and get the pitch. I really, really hate it. It's the worst part about Melodyne, in my opinion. I wish you could disable that, but some people like, I hate it. It just gives me a migraine right away. So I'm going to try not to use that feature too much because it's annoying. I can see how it's useful, but I just find it very annoying. So let's check this note here. It will sustain whatever point you hold your mouse at. It's kind of hard to get used to. So it's sustaining from here on, I think. Yeah, so that's all one note. That's an S. An S doesn't really need to be pitch corrected. We might have to watch out for S's that have been like shifted in pitch. That's an S there. I just hate that robot voice so much. Okay, here's a good one where it's definitely a note that's held for a long time, and then there's some vibrato at the end. It looks like it shifts down a step. Yeah, so definitely a good place to split. So right there. Could even split there just so that we can adjust the drift a little bit better.
Found a way to express myself.
The other versions of Melodyne have more advanced tools. Like you see here, I have the main tool, scroll tool, and zoom tool. The other versions have dedicated tools for correcting the pitch and other things. I don't remember. I haven't used the other versions in a really long time. You can do most of what you need to do with the basic version of Melodyne. This does monophonic instruments like vocals and bass guitar, and you can also correct percussion timing. I wouldn't really recommend it. I don't like pitch shift and time stretching on any instrument unless it's totally necessary. As far as I know, there's no quicker way to like make this split the notes more often. But I know that doing it now is going to be a little bit quicker, I think. Closer to like 80% correct. Something I may have forgotten to say before is that this is first in the chain, and Melodyne's always going to default to the first plugin in the effects chain. The VST3 version with ARA enabled is going to show up there. There are a couple other preference things, like compatibility settings. Save minimal undo states is going to make Reaper save the plugin settings. If that's off, then Melodyne will save more frequently, and it can be kind of a workflow problem. There's kind of a benefit to that, but it saves so frequently that it kind of interrupts workflow. There's a good forum post from one of the developers, and I'll put that on the screen here because I don't remember the exact words at this time. At this time, it's probably best to keep that minimal undo states turned on. Okay, so I've gone through the entire song. I've found sections of the blobs where I found that it should be split, where there's two different notes that is detected as one, or one note with a lot of drift, whatever it is. Now it's time to either correct manually or use the pitch macro. And so we're going to use the pitch macro today. I'm going to right-click, select all, and so all the notes are selected, and I'm going to click on this first button here, the pitch macro. And with this, we can move the position of the blobs closer to the center of the note, drag that up, and I'll do like 90%. And then pitch drift is note changes within the blob. So drag this up, and it kind of just flattens out the lines in between. It's a little hard to tell at this zoom setting. Let's just change that to like 58%. And we can also snap to key. And I'm not 100% sure that this is G minor. There's a couple notes like this one here won't, it's probably not in key if it is G minor. And so with this enabled, it will drop down. The tricky thing is sometimes that's a note that's being kind of like bent up as, you know, in between notes. It's hard to say what's the right thing without listening to it. So we're going to leave it with snap to G minor, pitch at 90%, and pitch drift at 57%. So in theory, the entire song is now corrected. And I'll go back to the beginning of the vocal at bar 26, and let's hear if this is better or worse. Oops. Got to be careful when the zooming in and out, because sometimes it just stops the transport. But anyways, let's try again.
If I just keep on trying, I can't figure out what my life's supposed to be like, what it's all about. Maybe you are pleased for me that I'm finally sure.
Okay, there's one that I probably should have split. And that gives us an opportunity to do some manual edits. So as I said before, you can click on it and hold, and that will sustain that note. So that's like an S. Don't need that. This part here is important. And in this little info area, it tells us which note it is and how far off in sense it is. So just dragging is going to snap it to the same plus or minus position in sense, but it's going to transpose it one note up or down. The arrow keys, left and right or up and down, will select each note. Option drag will adjust the note by sense. So now it's at -1. The other versions of Melodyne, I think you can like double click with the pitch tool and it'll snap it. I would love to have that, but I don't think it's worth the upgrade cost just for that. So let's see if this is better.
That I'm finally sure.
Okay, that's the wrong note.
That I'm finally sure.
I think that's better than, here's the original.
That I'm finally sure. That I'm finally sure.
It's kind of subtle, but yeah, it was wrong before the last way we had that edited. I can't remember how to unsplit something. Reset pitch center. And there. Okay, so here it is before.
Finally sure. Finally sure.
And corrected.
Finally sure.
It's subtle. It probably didn't even matter at all. All right, let's continue.
What I wanna get rid of, and what if I want more? What I wanna get rid of, and what if I...
Okay, that's a weird one. Let's reset this to the pitch center. And
what if I want...
Yeah, it's a little weird.
And what if... And what if I want more?
Maybe we can adjust the pitch drift a little bit better.
And what if I want...
It's a little weird. Don't like it. Something that's really annoying with Melodyne is that it doesn't like let you adjust left and right these edges unless I'm missing something. I can't figure out a way to like change where it was split. Let's put these back to normal. Reset all pitch changes. So here's the original.
And what if I want more? And what if...
Yeah.
And what if I want more?
I think that's probably the best way we can do this. Okay.
And what if I want more? Maybe you know I found a way. Express myself and say what I wanna say. Maybe you know.
Okay, that might be a little bit off. That's definitely different than the original. Okay, so here's a situation where the before sounds a little bit better than the corrected one, and I'm not sure why that is in this case, but I guess this note here got moved up to a G when it probably should have stayed as a G flat. That sounds more natural. Although that could be correct as well. It goes from the F up to the G. A thing like that, you just have to be consistent between each section of the song. So let's see if we can... go to bar 93. It is. Yeah, so it's F. And let's check what this was originally. Yeah, it's sort of, it was right in between. So let's select these two and bring them up to the F, or sorry, the G sharp, G flat. I don't know. In the comments, you can tell me which of those is correct one. I can't hear it right today, but let's just move on. So that's the basic pitch correction thing. We can also use Melodyne to adjust timing. I don't think it's appropriate for this to adjust the timing, but essentially you can just drag things left and right to like stretch out notes. Okay, that was a really bad note to do that on. So yeah, don't do that. Edit, undo. Let's drag that out. And that wasn't so bad. That wasn't a terrible edit. So there's a timing correction macro, and so we can kind of make these notes start on the grid lines. It's really more of a thing for, not really for vocals. I guess maybe for background vocals, or especially like a rap vocal, beatboxing. I don't know why you would, but yeah, you could use the timing correction thing. It's really for like percussion, but I hate the sound of stretched percussion, so I wouldn't, but it's there. So that's the basics of doing vocal editing in Melodyne, at least with the essential version. This vocal doesn't need a ton of work. There's a couple notes that need help for sure, but overall, it could probably get away with not tuning it. To summarize these things, the ARA version of Melodyne instantly gets the vocal from the track. It analyzes it and spits out these blobs that you can move around in pitch, up and down, or timing, left and right. You can stretch things to put them into time. You can hold down the Option key or Alt on Windows to fine-tune the pitch, or you can select all and use the pitch macro to snap everything to the key and change the amount of pitch drift. And then when you're done with that, you will want to save this somehow. You can keep it active, but for safety, you'll want to render this as a new track. So what we're going to do is select these other plugins. We're gonna hit Command B or Control B on Windows to bypass all these effects. Then we can render this to a new stem. So we don't want to freeze this. Melodyne is not compatible with freeze at this time, so we don't want to do that, but we can render to a mono stem and mute the original. Let's do that. So I've got my vocal with tuning, and I'll just call this vocal tuned. This track is now offline, and I can take these other plugins, take my plugins, and drag that over to there. So now Melodyne is on this track, my vocal with tuning is here, and I've got my effects chain back how it was. Yeah, all the sends carried over automatically. The fader level, which was at -2.7. Yeah, fader level is fine. So there you go. That's tuning vocals with Melodyne and ARA and Reaper. Hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Support the Reaper blog through Patreon. And visit reaperblog.net for a lot more tutorials.